What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Cam here, and in this video, guys, it's another journey update. I've personally enjoyed recording the first two ones. I've got some good feedback actually through my Instagram, and if you're not following me on there, at Cam Russelle. And before we get into this video, guys, like and subscribe, please and thank you. Trying to grow the channel, gonna be pushing out at least a video a week. Might pick things up depending on how I can get the workflow and some additional help on editing and planning the videos. So guys, in this video, got a few things, got some goodies. Really excited because, you know, there's some exciting stuff. So we're gonna go over the status of funding, what's going on with our funding. Like I mentioned in the last video, we are applying for $45,000 as a loan from Futurepreneur. Gonna let you know on that. Piecing it together and why imperfection is progress, and that's all that really matters. And going all in and really seeing no other option, like having that mentality of all in or nothing. And what we're doing as a company to start to make the shift as we come out of the start a business mode to running a business mode, and what those two maintenance versus growth tasks look like, and how I perceive kind of building the business from here on out. And last but not least, guys, what's to come? What's up next for myself? What's up next for Above Club and all that. So for any of you guys that are new here, again, please like and subscribe. I would muchly appreciate it. And I myself, to give you a brief overview, 23-year-old entrepreneur that was previously working at a startup that ended up leaving to pursue my own thing after trying a few times before. I've always been in entrepreneurship, always been into sales, marketing, love it. Love how it's all a strategy and it's all such a game. And taking my swing at e-commerce and also have in my back pocket some sales gigs, some marketing gigs going on to keep me going. But my e-commerce brand, the Above Club, at aboveclub.co, if you want to check it out, is long-term play, is the 10, 20, 30, that's the legacy play that will be kind of what I want to be known for, but not really from like a fame standpoint, but from an impact standpoint. Like when I'm, you know, off this earth and somewhere else, I want to know that the Above Club has been able to impact people's daily lives in a way that ultimately allows us as collective consciousness to elevate. And that's really what Above Club stands for. And you guys can check us out, aboveclub.co. So to get into it, this series, the journey, is all about me going through this and being really raw, really real about what's going on, the good and the bad. Right now, you know, honestly, and it's hard for me to get into things. Like it's hard for me to be very like negative just because of the nature of who I am and how I perceive life. I've always seen, whether it is a bad event, I've always seen it as good in the grand scheme of things. Not good, but like I've seen why it needs to happen, more importantly, right? So I try to understand that and actually like keep it in my head as a quote unquote negative, so I can like reflect and bring it to you guys as a learning experience. But it's tough. So right now, the last like two videos and this video, it's all like good news in a lot of people's eyes if you hear this stuff. But as we go through, I will try and bring more failures into the play or learning lessons from the tough times. So guys, Futurepreneur, the status of getting funded, approved. So fired up. If you've been following me on my Instagram, I've kind of leaked at that, but we got approved. And the second we got approved, we knew we weren't gonna get the funding right away. So we just pieced some money together and pretty much sent off our first deposit. So we're putting a order in for about $24,000 Canadian. That's gonna get us about 75 units. Because again, we are high ticket, right? 75 units plus some other small things, and then shipped into the States. So what we need to do is we actually ended up negotiating. So one of the things that I urge you to do when you're first starting is when working with suppliers or working with partners, don't take whatever their first offer is at face value. There's always going to be workarounds. We ended up getting, our supplier down from, I think it was $28,000 Canadian down to about 24, and then payment terms 50-50 to 30-70. So upfront 30, 70 on the back end. So that saved us a lot. It allowed us to just basically put about 6.3 down to get things started. Okay, so as soon as we got funded, as soon as we got approved for funding, we pieced that 6.3 together with our own capital, just kind of like fronting it, if you will. My hair is just not happening today. I'm gonna have to go hoodie and put that money up so we could just get things going. The reason being, and if you're in physical product and you're working with overseas suppliers, particularly in China, Chinese New Year, they pretty much black out for 2-3 weeks, and we've been trying to get the order in before Chinese New Year. We have, which is amazing. We just got confirmation from our account manager that we're gonna have product sent out before Chinese New Year, meaning by the time we have our shipment here in the US, which it is by sea, okay, that's another thing that you gotta be looking at, and we're gonna be really cognizant, is by sea is easily the cheapest, okay? Also takes the longest. It takes anywhere between 20 to 35 days. And knowing that, that's once we get going, we need to be really on the ball with inventory ordering. But what does that mean? That means we also need to be cognizant of our cash flow. We always need to almost have two amounts of our inventory purchase on hand at any point in time, because we need to be ordering ahead of time, but we also need to have an extra set of fund for the next one as well, if that makes sense. So that's something that we're gonna be cognizant about. So for this one, we got it in before the holiday. It's coming in. All that to be said, Above Club has officially made their first order of inventory, branded. Everything's good. We're gonna have it nicely packaged in a fulfillment center, 2 to 3 day shipping across the States, and hopefully 3 to 5 days up to Canada. That's the first thing. That is extremely, extremely exciting. And the piecing it together part, I kind of just mentioned it, but it's everything isn't gonna fall in place when you expect it or want it, but that doesn't mean it's not possible to do. And for us to make this loan work, for instance, we had to go through so many hurdles. And so up front, when you want to have a strong foundation and a strong system built, be okay with finding unnatural, uncommon ways of making things work that aren't scalable, probably aren't the safest bets to make, but it's stuff that you should take those risks on early on when you're getting things going, because ultimately, if you believe in it, you'll make that bet. And that kind of leads me into my next point of going all in. If you're an entrepreneur, and if you want to be an entrepreneur, and if you have, in my case, a business that you truly believe is going to serve the people, not just doing it for the monetary value, you should be all in on that idea. It doesn't matter what that looks like. That idea is all in. Anything that you need to do to make that happen, you're going all the fuck in on that. And for me, every day I show up in it and I ask myself, am I willing to make that sacrifice? Yes. Am I willing to do that? Yes. And if I can continuously tell myself you're all in, I know I'm giving my 110% at whatever I'm trying to do on that particular day to progress the businesses forward, right? So I think especially as myself being more in the leadership position, but anyone that's in a startup, you need to ask yourself, am I all in? And if you're not, you got to question, am I in the right place, right? If you're a team member that is just on a salary, cool, it might not be the end all to be all for you. But if you're starting a fucking business and you don't fully believe in what you're doing, leave, because you're not gonna be able to, it's just not gonna work for you, at least, right? And again, I'm sure there's anomalies and it pans out, especially through this digital era that we're going through. But when I talk business, I'm talking building a serious brand that has values, that has a community built on it, that has a reputation, not just a drop shipping business, not just like, a freelance agency where as soon as you make your first dollar, you're profitable and that's all you have to worry about. Like building a legit business and building a legit, brand that is going to create impact and have other people working for you in a very large scale. Like, you got to be all in on that to not only put up the time and monetary value up front, but then endure whatever challenges you're going to go through. We're on our fourth or fifth month since September, and we haven't even launched. You know what I mean? And like, I have myself and 3 other wizards, and we haven't even been able to fully figure it out to the point of like getting it started yet, So it's not that we're incompetent, it's just that there's so much hurdles that you cannot, for every business, right? You cannot like fully comprehend and understand until like you're experiencing them. But if you're not all in, you're gonna get flaked out. You're gonna be like, is this fully worth it? You're gonna have doubts. You're gonna see the monetary spend, you're gonna see the time that you need to put in to make this work, and it's just like, fuck, this ain't worth it. But if you see that longer vision and you're all in and you don't care what it takes, you don't care how deep in the hole you have to go, because you believe in yourself, you believe in your team, you believe in what you're doing and the impact you're creating, that becomes irrelevant. And not only does it become irrelevant, but typically you find the solutions that work the best when you do that. Because you don't care what's gonna happen, you're like, I'm finding a way no matter what. You're not finding the cheapest way, you're not finding the quickest way, you're finding the way that's gonna work for you, making it work for the long term. And I wanna touch on something on that note, and then I'll get on to the next point, is building early on, and I believe I mentioned this on my last video, early on, build out that vision, build out that mission. Build out those values that your business is ran on and your business it makes decisions by. And I know for a lot of business students and a lot of people in and around business, you've heard vision statement, mission statement, purpose, whatever. And that those terms have almost become like cliche, but in reality, those are actually the most important things about your business that build the foundation of what ultimately will become your culture when you have multiple employees. What build the look and feel and vibe of what your community becomes as you grow and as you have a customer base. It is the North Star that not only you as the founder can wake up and say, this is why I'm doing it, right? But it's why when you bring on a new employee or a new team member or bring on a new customer, right, into your world, it's what they can look at and be like, I believe in that, or I relate to those values and what they're building. I want to be a part of that if I'm the employee, if I'm the customer. And it's a much easier way to allow outsiders to buy into what you're doing. Because again, if you're in it for the earn, you A, most likely won't think of this, and then B, it's much harder to get others involved in your operations. But when you're in it to serve and you have a mission and you have that clear vision, and anytime you talk to a customer one-on-one, or anytime you talk to a potential employee or team member or advisor or investor, you can not only sell them on where you're trying to go clear as day and get them fired up about it, but it comes off as authentic because it's coming from literally your soul. In my case, it was created from within, and now I've been able to share that and really grow that between my team and even the early adopters to the Above Club that have either bought a product from us early on or have just communicated with us via social. They feel that, they see it, they want to be a part of it if it relates to them. Because there's these clear, distinct characteristics that shine, that when you look at it, you're like, that's what I want to be a part of. I want that to be in my life, okay? So, man, I'm telling you, that out of anything I've done so far about building a business was taking the time to get extremely clear on 3 things. what are we trying to do? What do we want to? What do we want the world to look like when it's over, or when we're over and done with, and the above club's gone? And what do we stand for? So what are our values? So mission, vision, and values. And the mission's really important. The vision's really important. But I do believe the thing that gave us the most ROI and gives me the most clarity is our values and how we hold ourselves as a company. And it's very easy because those values are truly how I live my life and how my team lives our lives. Hence why we're part of that team, is we're all very aligned with those values. So, but I'm telling you, the best thing that we've done is take the time and not only create those, put them on paper, but review them and talk about them and speak with our customers and our community with them early on. And that's going to continue to be a core part of what I do as a leader in the business throughout our journey. So that's that. I really hope that gives you value as someone that's trying to build a business and even just live your life, man. Like, if you don't have that North Star and that mission, you're going to be lost. You're not going to be motivated. That's why, guys like Lewis Mocker do the inspired life process and get you, or Dr. John DeMartini, get you to really think about, why the fuck are you on this earth? Why do you want to wake up every morning? Because when you have that, it's easier to stay focused, be inspired, have motivation, have energy, and get through the hard shit, okay? So, next, what I'm doing to make the shift from, starting a business to running a business. And I'm gonna make a more in-depth video on maintenance versus growth tasks, and it's something that I've kind of articulated over my time in the startup space. I came up with this notion of maintenance versus growth tasks at TrueFan, and ultimately that's really stuck with me on thinking about building and maintaining. And I wanted to kind of share that because we're going into that transition mode within the team and within the business right now. So now that we have funding, now that we have the website up, now that we have the team, now that we have the structure, it's important to understand who's responsible for what on a day-to-day basis, because there's still a business to run. Although we're constantly trying to grow it, there's still a core set of action items that each of us on the team collectively need to take to maintain the level of business that we've brought it to. For example, the website. We got to maintain the website. The books on the finance side. Someone's got to maintain the books and keep it balanced. Okay, do we have enough money coming in? Are we paying the subscriptions? Are we overpaying on subscriptions? From the marketing standpoint, are the ads running properly? Are we overspending, underspending, wasting budget, whatever? From the creative, from the social, are we constantly posting? Okay, from the email list, are we maintaining that? Are we cleaning it? So there's always going to be what I call maintenance tasks. And those maintenance tasks ultimately come down to a few factors. They come down to keeping the business alive, right? But then they also come down to optimizing the business. And what I mean by that is when you're starting out on maintenance task, you first need to find the best way to do that task to begin with, right? You got to figure out what's the best way to reconcile the books. And you got to build a system for our business with our communication style and our team framework. But then ultimately you get the hang of it and you get the best way based off our business to balance the books. So then we build a system. And once we have that system built, we then want to either delegate it or systemize it. So once we have the system, you can systemize it within yourself or within our team in the sense that we keep doing it, but now it's systemized where that maintenance task went from every time we need to perform it, it took an hour every week to taking 20 minutes, right? And that would be keeping it systemized in-house. Or once we have the system, we understand what is the best way to perform this, whether it's, again, balancing the books, posting on social, maintaining our ads, we might choose to delegate it. And you can delegate in-house, which again is completely fine. But I do think systemizing it still is the best way to look at it when you're keeping it in-house, because it's still a system within the bigger picture of your company. Or if you delegate it, in essence, it goes outside of your living, breathing organism that is your business, right? So the delegation part is great, but again, you got to build the systems early for the maintenance tasks to understand what's the best way to operate on those. And then the other side of the picture is growth tasks. Now, growth tasks as an entrepreneur and as an exec of a startup company and as an exec in general, if you're on senior management, if you're on the founding team, if you're part of the edge of what the business is, more of your time, and this is my take on things, more of your time should always be spent on growth versus maintenance. Maintenance might flare up, but if you're doing a proper job on building systems early, systemizing or delegating, you're going to be able to keep that threshold, or that ratio really is the best way to look at it, percentage of maintenance tasks at a minimum or a minority, and your growth tasks at the majority. And this should be, in my perspective, the way that all founders, all senior execs should always be looking. That you should always be constantly growing the business, growing the resources. And something that has really stuck with me from Ezra Firestone, who's like my man when it comes to a mentor in the e-com space, is you're not in the business of selling products. You're not in the business of making money. You're in the business of building resources, building assets, okay? And those can come in a variety of ways. It can come in human capital, it can come in brand building, it can come in systems. But you always need to be building and growing and acquiring assets. And if you aren't spending the majority of your time doing that as the founder, as the leaders of the business, you know, you're not going to be able to continue that growth. Ultimately, you're not going to be continue to expand. You're going to get stale. You're going to start to decrease. Your internal team's going to start to slow down because they don't see enough new stuff coming in. And that's just that. It is really plain and simple. But the differentiator is very important. And so what we're doing is I'm starting to identify with the team, hey, here's our maintenance tasks. Here's our growth tasks. Here's what we need to delegate first, second, third, but we also got to systemize those first. So what we're doing is we're getting clear. So first I would say is identify what those are. What are the maintenance tasks, and then what are the growth tasks? And the growth tasks constantly change. The maintenance tasks typically stay the same. So identify those and then assign them, and not only assign them, associate KPIs to each of those groups of tasks. So at the end of the month, which we're going to be doing, we have a weekly sync where we communicate on everything that happened last week, what we plan on doing next week, and anything exciting that we want to review. Happens on Sunday. Then on Monday, at the end of the month, we have a review of the entire month to ensure that everything's going properly. We're planning for the next month. We're resetting goals. We're getting realigned. Okay? But we have KPIs that each of us are now held accountable based off our maintenance tasks and based off our growth to say, hey, Cam, you know, how'd this KPI go? And did we hit it? Did we keep it under the limit? What's the status of it? And now we're holding certain maintenance tasks to a particular point in the business, okay? And not only that, if you are a founder, if you're on the senior team, it's easy for you to identify what's going right and what's going wrong and where the levers are that you need to focus on when you have those KPIs in the business, all right? Other things we're going to be doing, and to wrap that up, what I really look at that is consistent review and feedback. Keeping your pulse on baseline and keeping your pulse on the progress of things. The longer you let go in between those feedback loops, the harder it is to pinpoint what's going right and what's going wrong, all right? So the last thing that I would want to say from transitioning to like starting a business to running a business is communication. Guys, communication, honestly, and as the more I become the leader of my own life and as the businesses that I'm in touch with, the more I realize communication is critical. It is everything. And the clearer you can be and the more frequent you can communicate in an effective manner, the smoother things are going to be, all right? Communicating with yourself. Hey, how am I feeling today, right? That's communication with myself. Communicating with your team. Hey, what's going on this week? What are you doing? What are you not doing? Why not? But that communication needs to be streamlined, it needs to be clear, it needs to be concise, all right? And it needs to have purpose. So I think communication and how you do some of that stuff, to put it in context, is Slack, man. Like, the more I understand the versatility of what Slack's really doing, is that should be the only place your team receives communication and sends communication. Not only through the team, but from software. Okay, you notice every single software now integrates with Slack. Why? Because anytime there's an update that's important, you don't want your team having to check 20 different softwares, even 2 different softwares. It should all come into Slack in according channels. And in doing so, it allows not only everybody on the team to be in sync with what's going on with the rest of the team as need be, okay? You can mute the channel if you want, but as soon as you want to see that, you can very easily. But then 2, it gives instant feedback on what's going on and allows the team to take action accordingly. You miss the notification on your chatbot, there's 3 messages waiting, customer service, it delays, finally someone checks it 3 days after, shit, now we're 3 days behind on a problem that could have been solved right away if it was in the Slack. So I just drill home using Slack all day or something like that, and keep every single piece of communication integrated in a single centralized source, okay? So guys, that wraps up really what has been going on in the business, working through those things. What is to come? So what's to come for myself is I'm really trying to develop myself as a leader. I'm doing that in a few ways. Ultimately, I'm learning a ton. I'm really trying to understand what the great leaders are doing. Reading a book, Good to Great by Jim Collins, which is arguably like one of the top leadership books right now. And it was done in like 2006. Been great. Just finished another leadership book, so I'm learning, first and foremost. Secondly, I'm constantly reminding myself that I am becoming a leader, and I am a leader. And in doing so, by focusing on that, and you become what you think about most of the time kind of principle, I'm constantly looking through the lens of the leadership perspective. And so how can I take action on a day-to-day basis and work with the individuals I'm working with from a leadership standpoint, rather than, the sales guy or the marketing guy, which I really have been for most of my life. And the last thing is I'm putting myself in leadership challenges, right? So for example, as I build the Above Club, obviously I need something to cash flow before things really take off. And I thought I was going to just do the agency thing, just get a couple clients and work myself through, which would have been fine. But I've now actually taken on the task of working with a used car dealership that I've built a great relationship with, going in, selling cars, but seeing myself from a leadership perspective on like, how can I help this business thrive, and ultimately see myself as owner, have ownership in that. And same with obviously Above Club, like I am very much the leader. We're all doing our part, but I'm very much the leader in that side of things. So I'm doing very leadership oriented tasks, but anywhere I'm kind of touching, I'm like, how can I do it from a leader standpoint first and foremost? And so that's what's really, I want to talk about a lot on the up and coming, is how to be a leader for yourself, and then how to be a leader for your team. And what are some effective ways to do that? Because the more I look at it, like if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, the only thing you should really care about is getting really good at leading. Again, whether it's yourself, which you need to lead yourself first, or leading your team, in any kind of capacity. And whatever skill sets you've built prior to that, that's going to help you have those conversations and connect with your team. But leadership is like the thing. So that's what's to come. And from an Above Club perspective, we're obviously getting things going on the inventory. We're getting an exciting challenge going, which I might talk to you guys about on here. But leadership. That's what's on my mind. That's what I want to talk about. And so guys, if you have any questions, either drop them in the comments, hit me up on Instagram, and please like and subscribe, all right, if you stuck around this is 30 minutes, but hey, this is what I gotta say. I hope you guys find it valuable. And till next time, guys, take care.